Well, you know, if you hadn't backed into it first, they probably wouldn't have fallen
My NSA media passes up for rent, and then I try to get that the right price, it's really hell bent on going. Yeah, I need
We'll probably shut us off from more of that next time.
So I can just start the second reading. That's what Bob said, Bob said to the second reading.
We can go ahead and open these.
so with us, I don't know what they do with you, with us, I can give up to 6 with photos. Because I've got different colors you pull it out, and then 2 generic.
No, I think I just heard four shut.
But 6 of them are photo, so it's like.
I got
Tony?
No, not yet.
Not really.
I do.
I'm going sound good. Yeah, but
You have time?
He had figured for the 5, and I talked to him the day, he figured for 5, it goes up, and then they'd be, I call him.
You got, if you, well, do you technically have 3 council members now that you have quorum with 2, or do you? As far as swearing in anyway,
Got a lot of business with too.
if you're absent.
As long as they agree.
Kyle, this is Brad, you're still on your way, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, I knew you could be late. Thank you. He's just left his house, he's headed this way.
So it's just like AKS or something.
This is gonna be acres of equipment. It's kind of funny, because one on Facebook, and took me so really late, nobody ever did it. It's pretty big old house. Yeah, no, our CEO is still working. He's the CEO. Now, the CEO of Green Line is actually the board of directors and the chairman of the organization. And then the Spillak guy, he was going to be the but there are
Job security.
You guys waited on me?
No, well,
All right, go ahead and call this meeting to order at 17:06, 5:07. Opens Meeting Acts posted on the back northwest corner of the wall. If anybody needs to refer to that. Roll call.
Skylar.
Here.
Greg.
Here.
Brad.
Yes.
Rise and pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any item listed on this agenda will be open for discussion, consideration, and/or action by the Amherst City Council. Item 2, consent agenda. All items approved, passed with one motion. A, approved minutes from the February 12, 2020 regular meeting and February 26, 2020 special meeting. B, approval of claims. C, treasurer's report, and D, department head reports. Get a motion from council to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
First by Greg, second by Skylar. Roll call.
Greg.
Aye.
Brad.
Okay.
Skylar.
Aye.
No,
Come on.
all right.
Mayor's appointments and report. I don't have a report at this time. Item B, appointment of Tony Beck to 4 years, Tony Beck to fill the remainder of the city council term for Deb Hurlis with term ending in 12/1/2020. Talked to several individuals about filling this. Feel that Tony, with the experience he's had, 4 years on the council, is able to do that. And he's
Yeah, I'd be pretty
he was
good.
my choice for that, to move into there. That's why I nominated him. So, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Tony Beck to fill Deb Hurst's term ending in 12/1/2020.
Brad, second.
Second.
Second, Greg.
We're about done home.
Roll call.
Brad.
Yes.
Skylar.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Oath of office. Tony.
You had me nervous there for a second when you said 4 years. I was gonna.
No.
Where do you want me for the oath? Anywhere in particular?
Come right up,
Here we go.
raise your right hand, repeat after me.
I'll try.
I, Tony Beck,
I, Tony Beck,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or for purpose of evasion,
or for purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of a council member
of the office of a council
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear
How are you?
And I do further swear
that I do not advocate,
that I do not advocate,
nor am a member of any political party
nor am I a member of any political party
or organization
or organization
that advocates
advocates
the overthrow of the government
the overthrow of the government
of the United States
of the United States
or of this state by force or violence,
or of this state by force or violence.
and that during such time,
And, say that again,
that during such time
and during such time
as I am in this position,
as I am in this position,
I will not advocate
I will not advocate
nor become a member
nor become a member
of any political party
of any political party
or organization
or organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government
that advocates the overthrow of the government
of the United States
of the United States
or of this state
or of the state
by force or violence.
by force or violence.
So help me God.
So, no, you didn't need to sign it.
Okay. Yep, thanks. Bye.
I think that's good, Brad. And I'll get another.
Is there something else I need to sign? Is there another signature?
Just for you to sign on that.
Oh,
It says you're here.
yep.
All right.
Two cycles back, whatever that.
Public hearings, we have none right this time. Old business, item A, consider ordinance 1542 related to vacant buildings, second reading.
What I do is read it by the heading.
That's all I need to do. All right, second reading, just to hear.
Just this heading right here.
Ordinance number 1542, an ordinance of the city of Ainsworth, Nebraska related to vacant buildings, adding section 3-416 to 3-426 to the code, providing due process, repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, approving publication in pamphlet form and declaring an effective date, be it ordained by the mayor and city of and council of the city of Ainsworth, Brown County, Nebraska. All right. Item B, consider the recommendation of city administration and PPD regarding the selection of development proposal for the community solar project. Pat, go ahead, it's all yours, sir.
Thank you. Got some handouts for the council here, so. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I'm not sure where I should.
You have any
You have a couple extra?
Oh,
Great, thank you.
All right. Pat Hanrahan, Assistant General Manager of the Retail Division for MPD. Kathy thought she needed to take a vacation, so we got me tonight. Been a while since we've been in front of the council, so we want to bring you up to speed on where we're at with the solar and provide a recommendation for moving forward here. Going on to page 2, want to go through what the community solar program is again. Probably been a while since we talked about it. So it's a utility scale solar facility, okay, versus a individual rooftop. This is something we put out in the community, and one of the benefits is this: you can have multiple participants in this. So people that residential, commercial, industrial, people that are in apartments, people that wouldn't normally be able to put on individual solar type things, they can all participate in this. Anybody that pays an electric bill can participate, okay? Some of the advantages of the community solar: there's no upfront cost to the city or to any of the participants. Okay, so if you were to put on your individual solar on your house, you have the upfront cost, the insurance, all that stuff. There's none of that. All the city does is provide the land, and we'll go through where it's projected to be installed. The developer is responsible for all the construction and maintenance throughout the life of the project. Okay? And there will be a land lease agreement between the city and the developer on the land and the maintenance of the land and everything like that. So, economies of scale, the larger we can get a system, the better price you're gonna get. And so you'll see when we get to the end, we got pretty attractive pricing on this facility, so. Really, we're a partnership with the city always in this, so, you know, it gives us a chance to develop that partnership with the community, the developer, the vendors, the investors. solar is what we call a pollinator crop that's planted underneath the solar panels. So it's really kind of an eco-friendly habitat. Okay, so it's not just, and you can define in the land lease what that would be. We require that as part of our process to have a pollinator crop over there, so birds and bees, stuff like that. Another item, this one is gonna sit south of the water tower by the ball fields down there, right on the Cowboy Trail. And one of the things we've worked on with some other developers is an educational information place. So if we set that up on the trail, that might be kind of neat for people coming by. They can stop, they can see the solar facility, they can read about it, what the city's doing from a sustainability standpoint, all that good stuff. And probably the biggest interest to the city would be minimal impact to your lease payment. Okay, when people put individual solar on their house, they're completely offsetting the electric usage on that. This one, they're still buying all of their energy from NVE. They're just gonna get credit on a reduction from the solar site, so. Questions on what community solar is? Move ahead. Page 3, you can see the site here, just south of the ball fields. And our discussion last time, we would shift it, work with the developer to shift it as far south toward the trail as we can. Leave that space for parking and other stuff that's up there now. Again, the developer is going to be responsible for fencing the site, all the maintenance for the city requirements on the land. And we do have a line on the south end of that site, on the north side of the Cowboy Trail there. And so that really helps us minimize the integration costs. So that helped a lot having this piece of land out there that we could look at. So, page 4 is just an example of a fixed array. So the solar panels will sit there fixed, they won't tilt throughout the day. So just an example there for you to look at. Page 5, I want to go through a little bit of process here, where we've been. So Ainsworth is eligible from the peak load standpoint of 500 kW solar. Okay, that's 10% of your peak load.
Could you repeat that number? I didn't catch that.
500 kW. Okay. We started the process and issued the RFP in June of last year. We've gone through, we've got responses back. We got 5 responses. You'll see on the next page what the range of those responses were. We've been through the evaluation phase. There were some questions we went back, got some clarification on. So now we're here, we're ready to present the recommendation. Next steps would be to award the project to the selected developer. Once we do that, they'll submit a interconnection application to NPPD. We'll start on the system studies that are required. From an NPPD perspective, we'll start on the community solar agreement between NPPD and the city. We'll start on the land lease that the city will have to sign with the developer, and we can help you there. We have some examples if you want to see them. Next, we'll move into a power purchase agreement which locks in the price that we pay for the next 20 years. And a generation interconnect agreement with the developer that just lays out all the technical specifications that we require for interconnect. We move into construction, marketing the shares, and then we go into commercial operations. So once we get the developer on board, we'll refine that timeline and see where we're at there from an installation standpoint. Okay. Page 6, our recommendation. So again, went out for RFP, request for proposal. We got 5 responses. Prices range from $50.80 a megawatt hour all the way up to $87. Our base energy price with NPPD retail page is $58. Okay, so you can see one of the respondents came in underneath that. So anybody that subscribes to the solar is going to get a credit on their bill. And that's what we're looking for. We want to be very economical. Okay, the other 4 came in above that 58. So we really focused on that one that came in below. And they were able to meet all our specifications, technical requirements, everything there. You can see what went into bid evaluation prices. Is obviously the largest, but there's a number of other factors. So our recommendation at this point is to go with the GRNE Solar. They're out of Lincoln, Nebraska. They meet all the requirements of the RFP. They've got attractive pricing. And we did check on their previous projects, and so we're really comfortable with their experience that we're using today. That solar price could fluctuate slightly as we go through the process of interconnect and everything, so it might fluctuate around that price as well. It's not a final price. That's where we're at. So with that, I would entertain any questions related to solar.
Where have they built previous sites?
Oh, I would have to look at their RFP. I want to say, I won't say the wrong thing, so can we send it to you? We did check with 4 or 5 other companies that use them.
How many have they done?
Quite a few. They gave us 4 or 5 references, and we checked with all of them. And this is what I would consider more of a medium-size installation, so this is right in their wheelhouse for installation. Be happy to share that recommendation. So.
At that last meeting, I thought we were talking about a tracker design, not a fixed.
We got responses back for both types, and this is the one that came back with the best pricing. Okay, you still get the 500 kW, you still get the output, but you have the most attractive pricing.
I had visited with Kathy about that, because I know we've talked about that your base price right now is $54.80, correct?
$58.
58 is
Yes.
NVD's base.
Yes.
And one of the responses we got back was $52.80, I think, for that single access on a 20-year with the same developer.
That was GRE, that's their single axis tracking price.
So we're still quite a ways below base price.
Yeah, but I don't know that you necessarily gain anything by increasing the price of a tracking system versus the fixed.
Can you maybe explain
This is
then,
the tracking.
from your opinion, then what would or would not be gained by that, I guess?
You might gain a little more output production from the tracking system as it goes throughout the day, but at this size, it's probably not worth the $2 extra per megawatt hour. The fixed tilt, and forgive me, I don't have that in front of me what their production was.
This is the package we got last time. This is that's the tracking and that, I got both parts, right? And then
Oh,
I
that's
think
okay.
this-
They didn't give us their production on here, so I would have to look at that, but, yeah, their best price was on a fixed tilt system that sits one direction, so.
I think we were under the presumption or the understanding that the single axis is the newer technology. I guess was just our thought that over a 20-year span, maybe we want to start with the newer technology and would still be under the base price.
You would be, I just don't know that you're gonna gain enough from a single axis tracking at this size. Now, as you get up to a much larger size, production output increases in that tracking throughout the day. 500 kW, just don't know that it's there. So we're happy to look into it for you, run the numbers again.
My experience with solar has been the gains in technology are in the panels, not in the tracking system. Where we will gain the most productivity over the course of a 20-year lifespan will be in the technology that comes in the panels and how they're built and the power they'll generate, far more than what we'll get out of whether we're fixed or tracked. In the water pumping world, in the solar game, they started off with tracking because the panels were had such limited ability per panel to generate electricity that they had to have it facing the sun in order to have any chance of generating the power they needed. Now, no one's doing tracking in the water well pumping side of things for solar. They're all doing fixed because the panel technology's come so far. The panels are working so well early in the day, it doesn't, and there's the maintenance side of it too. The wind's gonna blow 80 mile an hour at times from the northwest. And fixed systems are gonna be a lot more durable, I think, during thunderstorm and high wind events than the tracking systems would be. But that's what little bit I know about it.
And you do take out, from the maintenance perspective, you know, if you want to go with the tracking system with fixed, you automatically take out that maintenance of any motors that turn that life cycle too. If you wanna see the difference in production, I apologize, I don't have it, at my fingertips. We can sure get that for you and see, what that difference is. I think it's gonna be generally negligible, but I would rather provide it to you and have all the information there.
I think that's something we want.
Okay. Any other questions?
Anyone from audience?
I have a couple, just because I'm new to the conversation. I didn't know up until 5 minutes ago this was even being considered, so can I throw a couple questions at you?
Absolutely.
All right, so you said 500 kW is 10% of our peak,
With your peak load,
okay? So what's our baseline load typically? Do you know that number or have a rough idea where we are for baseline average load?
it'd be around, 5,000.
Okay,
Is
so,
that what you're asking?
yeah, I was just trying to figure out kind of where our peak was, or what our normal average day-to-day running load is.
Oh, your day-to-day, well, that would be your peak at, either in the summer when every air conditioner's on, or in the winter when every air conditioner's on. So, day-to-day, I'd have to guess a number for you.
Spring and fall, we're gonna be more like 25–30% probably of the base load.
Somewhere below that, yes.
The 500 kW is where we land because of the real estate we have to deal with, or is that?
No, that's the, Sunderby Retail offers, 10% in peak load to any community. So, that's where the 500 kW comes from.
Okay.
Or your community, like Kearney, they put in a 5.7 megawatt, scales like.
Okay. If we wanted to be bigger, that's not a lot.
Right now, because we're limited to 10%.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Do you have a educated guess on when this would go online?
Depending on when the approval happens, we're probably, I would say conservatively 8 to 10 months from commercial operations. And that depends on if we move into winter time and ground issues. My best guess would
You, like Carney say, some of the previous places, do they track?
Our first two sites were in Venango and Scottsbluff, and they are fixed tilt systems. We're generally on the smaller side. Kearney was our third site that we track. And then we just standardized 2 weeks ago our second Scottsbluff system. It is a tracker as well. So the Kearney was a 5.7, Scottsbluff 2 was a 4.375 megawatt system. So you're talking many more acres of land and panels.
I got a quick question, or two questions. Can I get a copy of that presentation? Can I stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. And you, battery storage, is it not feasible or?
It's probably not cost effective at this point. So we are working on we did get a grant to try some battery storage. We're working on a solar project in Norfolk.
Yeah, I understand.
And, so we're working on the battery storage there, but without the grant money, it's probably.
The
not
grant
cost
money's not
effective.
dried up, I
So,
think. Can I just, I'll swing by tomorrow and pick that up?
Sure.
Copy?
Yeah.
well, I have them on the way out. So.
Anything else? Todd, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple follow-ups. As you mentioned, there's a number of fixed tilt sites, the new ones. Venango was fixed and Scottsbluff first. Norfolk will be tilt, Gothenburg's tilt, Hemingford's tilt, Fremont will be tilt, the new place in Lincoln will be tilt. As I understand, the city had visited about four weeks ago. And initially, during the conference call, there was talk about the fixed. It was at that point in time, 4 weeks ago, that we wanted an update on the single axis tracker, which was provided by NVPD. It was at that point in time that everybody was under the understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that they were going to move forward today approving a single axis tracker on a 20-year term. And that's viable today, is it not?
It would be. It would just be, and we can certainly go that direction. It would just be you're paying more for a single axis tracker versus, you won't get as much credit versus the fixed tilt.
And I understand that. The fixed tilt, primarily are set were earlier projects and or on graded sites, hillsides.
Not that I haven't seen all of them, not that I've seen
Sure.
Central City, they got both.
But that was an old, the first one, the second phase in Central City is Till.
Was it Till? Correct.
Correct. And so most places, if you're in a hilly environment, you would use fixed just because of the dynamics of the panel shifting from east to west. We're not asking for a dual tracking system because I think the bugs are there. But the single axis tracker is a proven, by and through Kiewitz studies, that's the way to go. I understand the financial, you're putting out maybe the financial instances that are out there. But the single axis tracker, you would agree, is the most advanced technology we could have today. And further in the, when we initially approached, I think NPVD and the city also wanted the most efficient from 4 to 7 at night, which a single axis tracker would promote that.
It would, that's correct. What I wanna do is make sure I get you the production difference between the fixed tilt and the single axis tracker, so you can see what the incremental cost versus benefit is.
Correct, but what I guess we're wondering here is then this pushes us down the road another 30 days, does it not?
Yeah, it would have to come back for approval at that point. So,
And we initially talked about possibly starting construction as early as July.
potentially. And-
Yeah, well, we've got the PPA, and I understand some of those things that have to be done,
Correct.
but this is another 30 days, and I put forward to the council, we understand there could be some output that comes before us. But we know that 4 weeks ago that this was on the table, and it was conveyed to NPPD that this is the route that we wanted to take.
My apologies,
Well,
that wasn't what we understood. It was go get the most cost-effective, go get updated pricing and the most cost-effective system. So that was what I took back. And so they gave us pricing for the single axis tracking, and they gave us updated pricing for the fixed tilt, so.
Correct, and so that's what the 5280, if you notice, is a single axis tracker.
Correct. Correct.
Which would still warrant the credit to the city.
It would still warrant the credit.
Correct.
Yeah.
You have those bids, what's the reason they can't just approve that tonight or today?
You certainly could. I just want to make sure you understand the incremental production gain versus the cost.
And Pat, one more thing, I'd like to speak to Tony, Tony's position about the storm and the wind. I agree with Tony, as a person with a solar well, there's a number of ranchers that do and don't use single axis trackers. As the storms, what they do, they can be programmed. So if there's a high wind coming, say from the northwest that you talk, they'll rotate flat. And if there's a hailstorm, they can rotate vertically and back. So the storm and the weather systems, obviously are built into the system.
Which way are they, when they're changing axis, they're changing
They'll go
north to
from-
south? or
No, east to west.
East to west, okay, so they're tracking the sun as it comes across.
Exactly.
Okay, so, yeah, so they're not gonna go from being, this angle, if it's 42 degrees or whatever it is gonna stay fixed. They've got the ability to pitch them one way or another, but they're not gonna be able to lay them flat if the
Yeah,
wind's
so
going.
fixed would be,
No, they're flat, Tony. They lay flat, and they rotate to the east as the sun comes up, rotate to the west.
Well, they're not gonna be laying flat because flat doesn't do us any good because our
No.
peak angle for tracking the sun's at 42
Right.
degrees at our latitudes, so.
Right, but they track across, it might be a
Right.
slight differential, correct, but
I
they,
understand that, but the solar panel's not gonna be laying flat, tracking east to west. The solar panels are gonna be laying on a 42-degree angle, tracking east to west.
it'll be
correct?
flat on a tractor system.
correct.
They're gonna be laying flat,
It'll be flat.
okay?
You're correct on the fixed, it'll be.
When it's fixed, they're gonna be,
Correct.
Based on it, gotcha.
we lose something in efficiency by not by them laying flat?
Well, that's why I want to get the production numbers for you, the output in kilowatt hours.
The most efficient, the solar panels, it's most efficient in the winter when it's cold compared to when it's hot. That's when their peak efficiency, operating efficiency is when the temperature cold.
Generally, I wouldn't disagree, but the output is generally higher in the summertime with more sun.
Right, but that's why the reason I'm asking is because my experience with solar, which is limited, I'm not telling MPD they don't know their business. But in the winter time, we've got to stand our solars at 42 degrees in order to be able to get that winter energy. I'm just having a hard time getting my head wrapped around how, if we're laying them flat, how well they're gonna work through the winter when it's but maybe Todd, you seem quite versed on this.
Yeah, well,
And educate me,
When,
please do.
when Kiewit put their study together, it was at the advent of going from fixed to single axis to
Okay.
double axis. And with a single axis tracker, you have anywhere between 15 and 30% more efficiency.
Okay.
And I can give you,
No,
that. Yeah.
Kiewit study, I'm not doubting it, I don't
Sure.
know that, so I appreciate the fact you're here and informed, so.
I think what we can do tonight to satisfy your concern, Todd, if GRNE is gonna be the best case, the best cost, whether it's fixed or single axis. If you're comfortable with the recommendation of GRNE, we can go down the path of which is the better system. And approach it from that way.
Working with GRNE as a
Then we can
developer.
award and we can start working with GRNE and we won't have to wait 30 days. We can get you the information and we can come back and decide we need fixed tilt or single axis for the council.
So, just to make sure I understand, the point of clarification is just the efficiency of the panel itself,
Would be the output.
the output
The output.
of a
And
fixed
obviously we're
versus
gonna-
a tracker.
Correct. And obviously, if the city wants a tracking system, we'll go with a tracking system. That's what we're here to do. Just want to make sure you have all the information in front of you, what that incremental benefit or cost would be.
I apologize because I'm playing catch-up obviously a little bit on this, but, so, bottom line of the city of Ainsworth as far, each individually homeowner has the ability to sign up for this and get a credit on their electrical statement.
There'll be a certain number of shares, what we call shares, and that's 150 kilowatt hours per share, okay?
Okay.
Each individual bill payer would be able to subscribe up to 100% of their power requirements. Right, so a typical homeowner, 1,200 kWh per month, 1,000 kWh per month, is gonna be eligible for 6, 7, 8 shares. Okay. This particular facility, 500 kW, is gonna generally have around 500 shares. Okay. So what we've done in other communities, we've had to limit the larger customers at the beginning. We obviously give the city the first option to take shares to offset any of your facilities. And then we offer the shares to the community. And we'll make sure residential customers have a chance to subscribe. Once it's fully subscribed, then they go into a wait list.
Is it first come, first served?
First come, first served.
And shares are transferable, correct?
If they're within the community. If they move out of the community, obviously they drop off and become available.
So essentially, it's slightly cheaper for the fixed tilt per kilowatt hour, but the single axis is more efficient and it's hardier against storms, or it's adjustable for storms.
I don't know if it's fair to say it's harder against storms, because it's, I mean, it's pretty solid either way, so.
There's, okay, so
It's
is
got the
there,
technology too.
right, so I mean, like in a hailstorm, it's safer to have the axis, the,
If they tilt
Adjustable
them,
ones.
like Todd said, if they tilt them further in a hailstorm. Otherwise, we haven't seen, they claim they have hail studies. We haven't seen any damage in any of our existing installations. So, not saying it couldn't happen. If it does, that's on the developer to repair. So,
And any maintenance through that 20-year or 25-year term is on the developer.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a question about at the end of the 20 years. So we're 22 years away from this, the developer's done, the facility's still out there. Where do we go from there at that standpoint?
Presumably, there's probably life still left in that facility. And so, we'll come back around at that point. You know, the developer may be interested in selling that facility and compete, we may purchase that facility. Or maybe the price changes at that point. So we'll start with a 20-year. Over here in Todd, I don't know if you, or 35, 40 years is what we're generally seeing on life expectancy of a solar project nowadays. So, if you decide 20 years you want it out, it comes out.
That's part of the agreement is we decide we don't want it anymore. It doesn't be something, you turn into a trash collector in the southeast corner of town with trash bags sticking out.
presumably there's gonna be some light bulb in that too.
That's fine, I just don't want it to be the eyesore on the southeast corner of town 25 years from now, because nobody wants it anymore, and they walked away from it. So,
And that's a good point, Tony, because I think a number of sustainable energy systems are facing that right now. Their life is burnt out. And the course council for the city will visit with the developer. And it's the decommissioning that is extremely important, I would agree with you. And that will be put in the agreement from the get-go. Absolutely.
That's just, I didn't know, is there a performance bond or anything like that? Is if 5 years from now, these guys go belly up and they're out of the game, are there's recourse for us?
You have the land lease agreement part of it, and we also have, NBD would have a power purchase agreement, so we have protections built into there as well. Yep, absolutely.
As an MPD customer, if you purchase or if you sign up for shares, I mean, I assume you're not just gonna get the credit for the power that's generated or your portion of it, but you're gonna be responsible for repaying on that portion of the project as well. So there would be a cost, but then also a credit back.
What we do is what you would see on your bill is a charge for the full base price. So if we would go in kilowatt hour, it'd be 5.8 cents per kilowatt hour. And then we're gonna turn around and credit you back however many shares of solar you have. So there's no cost to the customer. It's just a pass-through credit, whatever the price of the solar is.
So the difference, that's what your credit is.
Yep. Yes, sir.
How many projects do you have proposed right now?
So we have 4 in service right now, and then we have Norfolk in process, and we have Ogallala, Chandron, York, and they just started the process of the RFP, request for proposal, and then we've been to, can't tell you how many communities that are interested in it, so.
And how many of those are fixed?
Our Venango and Scottsbluff are fixed.
The new projects?
The new projects, we haven't gone out for the request yet, so I can't tell you at this point what their most economical position is going to
Pat,
be. Yes, sir.
is this your smallest project or is Venango smaller?
No, Venango's 97 kW. So it was, and I think Scottsbluff 1 was 128 kW.
So Scottsbluff 2, Pat, that was a single axis tracker, correct?
It was a 4.375 megawatt.
And maybe it would be helpful for the people here, when you're talking about the difference between, say, 50 on the fixed and 52, we're talking dollars per, we're talking cents.
Yes, we talking megawatt hours, so we're talking 5 cents versus 5.2 cents.
Correct, and that's what we show up on our customer's bill. So the difference between making a decision on a single axis tracker today would be 2.8 cents. Roughly.
Yes. What do you mean? Yeah, we could approve GRNE and then get you the information and then decide which direction you want to go from tracking versus.
NPPD's reasoning behind this is just to help them bring their base load down, so that they're not having to figure out how to build new generation. This is a more cost-effective way for them to do that, or what's the?
Not at all, it's really community driven. The interest was there in renewable energies, and so this is our.
Well, you guys also committed to, didn't you guys commit to trying to have a certain percentage of your power generation coming
Yes.
from renewables at some point too? Do projects like this
So
help toward
projects
that?
contribute to that
Yeah,
as well.
okay. What was, do you remember do you know what that percentage was? I know that it's a longer term.
I should know what that is off the top of my
I
head.
don't, and it's not important. I just
10%
wondered if
by
that was-
2020,
What was it?
10% by 20.
And I think we've met or exceeded that at this point. So we are around 60% non-carbon, not the nuclear facility.
Everybody good?
Yes. I'm fine now, I just took my Metcalfe's.
No worries.
So,
Thank you.
we're gonna have a few of those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to see you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
If we can get everybody's comfortable, we can get a motion to award the contract with NR, or GRNE.
Thank you.
With the platform negotiations for fixed and single axis tracker panels to be in action.
to reward the
You
contract
might,
GRA.
you might understand that the city council expected it to be tracker.
I was
Yes.
thinking, I was thinking it was gonna be tractor.
Yes.
Well, that's what I would vote on, then, if that's the option.
Well, we can go ahead and start the contract, and then he can Pat can get us the information back. I mean, that way it's still going, we're still
That won't
initiating.
postpone it?
No, that shouldn't postpone, correct?
Okay.
No, we'll start the conversation.
Yes, Todd.
And I just want to have it clarified. If you vote today to have GRNE be the contractor, is it just simply a phone call that says, for 5280, the same conversation we could have here is going to happen in 30 days?
Well, I don't
Because
know.
whether it's more efficient or not, if that tracker system is more efficient, Ainsworth is doing a civic duty by creating more efficiency and putting it down the line for FPPD. They're paying 2 cents, 2.8 cents to be a good neighbor.
And again, we'll go whichever direction. I just want to make sure that the council has all the information on what the incremental benefit is of the tracker versus the fixed.
Is council ready to vote on that?
I have one question before we.
And I might have to rescind my motion, I don't know if that's caught, but just.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yes, sir, yes, yes.
So my one question is, do we know the difference is, instead of 50.8, it's 52.8?
Correct.
We know that was the number that was put in their RFP, I think is the right term, so.
I got them together, Brad.
What's that?
I got them together when you get there, there you go, right there. Top one should be fixed, bottom should be single axis.
Okay, so the number is, we know the number.
We know the number.
Correct.
All right. And we know, based off the Kiewit study, we're 15 to 30% more efficient by doing the single axis tracker. As long as I'm getting the verbiage correct, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to not just move forward with the single axis tracker. I mean, we're gonna get enough out of the efficiency gain to cover the 2 cents difference anyway, because we're only talking 2 extra cents per megawatt. And if we pick up 15%, that's way more than 2 cents on $50, so it's a no-brainer on the math. So even if we're conservative on how much efficiency gain we gain, I think it's still the right direction to go.
And either way, we still get a credit.
Yeah, we're still
We're still
below
below
the cost.
That's correct.
We're still, because cost of generation is what?
58.
58. So we're still talking about a 6 cent per megawatt,
So if the
or
city gets
per
that,
kilowatt, sorry,
those unsold shares, we're
$5 to $6.
still getting credit back.
If that's the way you want to vote today, that's fine. I'll still provide you the information. So the 15 to, what was it, 30% increase is from a study. I want to give you the actual numbers for this facility so you can see for yourself, so.
There's obviously not a problem from the developer standpoint of doing one or the other, they're doing both. Is that correct?
They would offer both.
They offer both and have been doing both, so
Yep.
they're comfortable with either type system, because that's already based on the proposal. So
Yeah, our recommendation was based on the most cost-effective system.
Tony, we looked at the fixed originally, and then we got these updated bids
Okay.
the second
All right.
time around
Yeah,
from these
like I
guys.
say,
Yeah,
you gotta forgive me here, I'm playing an awful lot of catch-up here, so.
we're good.
All right, so,
Can I continue with my motion, or?
do you want to make a motion?
I don't think you finished your
No,
motion.
I didn't. So as I was saying, I move that we approve GRNE Solar for the contract for the single axis tracker solar facility. For $52.80 megawatt hour.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
First by Skylar, second by Brad. Roll call.
Skylar?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Laura pass.
Oh,
Tony.
You're here patiently waiting.
I'm sorry.
I mean, yes.
I was kind of in like,
It's all
what
good,
happened
it's all
for a
good.
second.
You're not gonna hurt my feelings, I'm pretty thick.
You just got to yell at me though. You weren't paying
I
attention.
thought maybe you were scribbling something, thank you, didn't wanna rain on me.
Thanks, Pat. Regular agenda, item A, consider wastewater improvement project change orders. Jess. Olson.
Good evening. You should have some change orders. We got it from you. Last meeting we were at, we discussed upcoming bid prices.
basically amends the bids and gets everything started on the final piece to move forward.
Yes, you're gonna have to forgive me, there's enough people walking out the door that was my hearing, I couldn't understand what the heck. he was
Yeah, I thought I
saying.
should have waited a little bit.
So, you're gonna have to give me the first paragraph one more time, buddy.
Okay, I'll even back up a little farther. We received bids, can't even tell you what day now. Anyway, 2 weeks ago, we had a special meeting, to discuss awarding bids. The project was broke up into 3 sections, bid section A being water meters, bid section B being the cured in place liner for the sewer, bid section C being lift station improvements. We discussed at the meeting awarding the projects, and then that there were some issues with sales tax basically being flipped around. So bid section A needed to add sales tax into their bid, and bid sections B and C needed to remove sales tax from their bids. So this change order addresses the unit prices for their bids with the correct amounts based on the sales tax. So this kind of just adjusts all the unit prices, gets everything on the level up, starting to move forward. The net for the project was $1,246.64 change. So it's about a net wash like we talked last time. So this just amends all of the unit prices moving forward.
Is that more or less?
More. Always
They-
more. Always more.
Okay, so the fine folks that are doing the water meters, did they not know when they did this that they were gonna have to do
No,
sales
that was
tax?
actually, that was an error on our side. It got flip-flopped in the specification describing, it had everything in detail describing how it needed to be put in there for tax, and then the bid sections got flipped.
So you guys are gonna eat this part then?
I don't know if we can legally do that, but, I'm definitely putting it on my shoulders.
Guy that makes the mistakes, the one that gets to take it on the chin, is not how this works, it's how it works in my shop.
Yeah, it goes downhill too.
As long as we know who to crucify, that's the important thing, so.
You're going back, County?
Smiling at it.
And then the other bid specs just they didn't have to have sales tax on their stuff, but they had it in their bid, is that?
Yep, it just got flip-flopped the way that the A's and B's and C's got flip-flopped, so.
Yeah.
B and the C was to remove and the A was to add.
So are we splitting the difference? You guys get half and we don't? I mean, that seems fair. Wasn't our mistake, but we're asked to pay the bill. Had the same conversation with the John Deere dealer earlier today and ran down. No, this is on yellow stuff, there's nothing you know about, so. All right, well, fair enough, I just. Shot.
Any more questions, comments? Council audience? And entertain a motion to approve the project changes to the contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the project changes on the contract for the wastewater project.
First by Brad, second.
Second.
Second by Greg. Roll call.
Tony,
No.
Skylar,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Brad.
Yeah.
3-1 pass. Item B, thank you, Jess. Item B, consider ordinance 1543, providing for the insurance of the sewer utility bond application notes series 2020, the amount of not to exceed $2,100,000 for the purpose of paying the cost of constructing sewer improvements within the city of Ainsworth. Scott Keen, Piper Sandler, and Company.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Scott Keen from Piper Sandler. Thank you for having us here tonight. As mentioned, this is an item, it's an ordinance authorizing the issuance of up to $2.1 million of bond anticipation notes to provide the interim financing for what will eventually be a USDA finance project. USDA does not lend monies during the period of construction. They won't lend until the project's done and has been signed off. So this is the way to borrow the funds to pay for the construction and then get those taken out once the project's completed and the USDA has approved it. This is much like the bond anticipation note financing that the city entered into last year. It has an 18-month, approximately 18-month maturity date. Lisa, correct me, I think Brad told me that the expectation was the project would be completed in the next
By November 30th.
8 months or something. Yeah, okay. So then depending on how quickly USDA you're able to finalize the agreement with USDA, the bonds will just be taken out, the notes will be taken out as soon as those loan dollars come through. And Brad will help. I'm filling in tonight, I apologize, I'm filling in tonight for Brad Slaughter, who normally does your work. The ordinance is a parameters ordinance, so it allows for the mayor and clerk to finalize the terms and conditions as long as the financing meets certain parameters. The first of which is the principal amount cannot exceed $2.1 million. The true interest cost of the notes cannot exceed 3%. The underwriter's discount, the fee that goes to Piper Sandler, cannot exceed 0.75%. And the notes shall mature no later than July 15 of 2022. The preliminary analysis that I just handed out, Brad is showing a final maturity of October of 2021. Again, that would give you almost a year after the anticipated completion of the construction of the project. So I don't anticipate that the financing will go out that far. But you may end up with an interest payment here that would be due this fall, October 1 of 2020, at Brad's conservatively estimated interest rate of 1.3%. That's a little over $11,000 that would be paid in interest, probably, hopefully just prior to completing the project and getting the loan finalized with the USDA. Part of this ordinance states the city's intent to issue less than $10 million of tax-exempt debt in this calendar year, which obviously you'll hit. Doing so allows the notes to be declared what's called bank qualified, which means the banks that buy the notes not only get the tax-exempt income on their investment, but they also get an additional spiff on their cost of funds. So bank qualified issues are very attractive, much more attractive to banks than non-bank qualified issues. So really it's the IRS's way of helping to make small issues in greater demand for banks, and banks are still pretty active buyers of notes like this. Obviously the turmoil in the marketplace over the last couple of weeks with the coronavirus is really throwing not only the stock market but the bond market into a real tizzy. It's amazing how quickly interest rates have moved, but I think Brad's anticipation is that we'll be getting to market fairly quickly, and at least from the preliminary numbers, assuming that the issue is settled by the end of April and funds are delivered at that point. I assume that works out for timing of when contract payments would be made as well. Okay. With that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
On that calculation on the interest, that's if we get the full $2.1 million right up front.
That's correct.
But we don't have to take it, we can take it in increments, is that correct?
The ordinance, I'm not sure that the ordinance provides for multiple issuance.
That's it.
I thought that's what we talked about, but it could be either or.
Okay, Carl, bear with me for just a second.
I was thinking that my discussion with Brad was, this is giving us the authority to take it out, and we could choose how we wanted to.
You can choose to take out as much as you want, that's correct. The worst case scenario is that we would come back with another ordinance. Typically, I'll see language in here, and again, I've read it, but I didn't scour it for that very question. Typically, you'll see language that says in one or more series, up to not to exceed 2.1 million in one or more series, and I'm not seeing that language in here. So it could, I'm not saying it's not here. I'm just saying that it's not jumping out of me. And if that's the case, again, worst case scenario is right back at the very next council meeting, 30 days from now, with another authorization that would allow for successive financings if you want to be doing it in pieces like that. Does that work?
Because I know we did discuss it, we can take increments, not take it all at one time.
Yep.
Interest savings, so that was discussed.
Brad did not mention that to me, but again,
Haven't you already borrowed some?
We did.
Well, yeah.
200,000.
Page 4, Lisa had something there.
you saw something.
It's talking about
Increments.
increments, redeemed amounts, 5,000.
Yeah, that's
Multiples.
That's the redemption. When it comes time to pay off the notes, you don't have to pay them all off at one time. If the USDA were to give you money incrementally, you could be calling a portion of the bonds and redeeming them without penalty, but they have to be done in $5,000 increments because that's how they're sold. Yeah, that's what that's referring to.
I know the interest is cheap, but it seems foolish to have to pay interest on money we don't need until October.
Well, I apologize. So how are the billings coming in for the project? I assume on a monthly basis, once you start the work.
When's the construction authorization going to occur? April?
Yeah, we wouldn't, if we have a pre-con in a couple of weeks, looking at beginning of April, quickest they would have anything here would be, I wouldn't think end of May would be the quickest deal you would probably get.
Even if we have to have a special meeting, it's gonna save us that much money, I think we need to have
More justification.
more clarification of what for sure is happening there, because that's what we discussed, and I thought that's what we agreed to, is we could take it in increments.
That was my
And
understanding.
you absolutely can't, and this ordinance would allow you to do that.
Oh, it will?
You get to choose it. Well, it's actually the mayor and the clerk who, as part of their authority to approve the final terms of conditions of either the single financing or the first financing, the council's giving them the authority to do any amount up to $2.1 million. So if you decide at this point, you only want to borrow $500,000, they have the authority to finalize that. You can at least lock in that amount. I'll just mention that the only incentive to be borrowing it, you're absolutely right, because you're not going to earn 1.3% on this money after you borrow it. So there is going to be a cost of carry, but you're also locking in the interest rate. Who knows what interest rate's going to do between now and 3 months from now or 4 months from now when you may be doing another financing. But that's absolutely your call, and it makes no difference to us how you end up doing that.
And what is do you have any thoughts on?
Well,
especially
I'd love
with
to
the
tell you,
COVID-19?
I'd love to tell you I know where interest rates are going, but unfortunately, if anybody does, they're probably not telling you the truth. The reality is what's happening in the market right now is almost 90% driven by Corona. I mean, we've seen the 10-year Treasury went from a 262 late last year to 30 basis points on Friday. I mean, we're nearly in the category where Europe is, where they're paying negative interest rates. I mean, U.S. Treasuries came close to having negative interest rates. That's never happened before. We've set new lows all the way down. Now, if they were to come up with a vaccine for Corona, not very likely, but if the Corona fear were to disappear, if when the flu season disappears in April, the coronavirus numbers go way down as well, and there's some certainty to it, I think we'll see stock market and interest rates jump right back up again. I mean, the stock market in a positive way, the bond market in a negative way with interest rates going higher. But I mean, they're also talking about how this might take 6 or 8 months for people to get their arms around how impactful coronavirus is going to be. So it really is hard to say. But
if rates were gonna go up, we could pull the full amount and have it locked in. So
That's
an option we can look at too at that time, if that's our figure.
That's correct. So if you want to look at, I mean, you don't have an estimate off the top of your head as to how quickly expenditures might be going out.
We don't really know, the contracts haven't really said when they're thinking about moving in. So
Yeah.
The first payment would be end of May at the quickest, I would think.
I mean, if you want to split the difference, maybe you borrow half of what you need now and come back and do the other half You know, even if it's 2 or 3 months from now, if interest rates start to tick up, that's before you need it. You probably won't have spent half the proceeds within, you know, the next 3 or 4 months. But you have the ability to come back and do a second financing and borrow the rest if you do see interest rates running up and down.
Is that via ordinance again? Like
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. It'd probably be an ordinance that amends this ordinance to allow for multiple financings. So it's multiple issuance. So I don't think it would necessarily have to be a completely separate brand new ordinance, but I'd leave it to bond attorneys to make that determination. But it would require council action, absolutely.
Questions, concerns, comments? All right.
So you say we have to do another amendment to get multiple advances?
That's correct.
But this is still granting the authority of locking the rate.
Yes. Well, it's not locking in a rate, not until you end up going to market. That's the issue.
Right.
So,
Right.
but what it does allow is for the sale of one series of notes in a dollar amount that you will tell Brad what that dollar amount is.
Okay.
So you can decide if that's $50,000 or $500,000 or $2.1 million. You'll tell him what that amount is. That's the amount that they'll go to market with, and then talk about coming back with an amending ordinance next month or the month after, or just whenever it's convenient for you.
It is the issue here just time? If we held a special meeting and you redid the ordinance and got it to us with the increments in it, Monday, tomorrow, whatever, is that something that could be done?
Sure. I'm just saying you don't need to do that.
So
You don't
what
need
you're
to call a
saying is to
special
pass
meeting.
this one and then pass another ordinance amending it, but,
Yep.
but if we, why wouldn't we just want to do one? And just-
It's totally up to you. I'm just trying to give you a solution that doesn't require a special meeting. And again, I haven't scoured this ordinance to make sure that you don't have a multiple issuance provision in here. It's just not jumping out.
Is Brad around where you can call him?
I believe he's in another school board meeting.
But I think we could probably table this, Brad, like you say, if we're not need monies until May, we could approve it with multiples in April, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
And still be okay?
Sure.
There's not gonna be a bill due the month of April on this project, no way.
Not a problem, just again, a reminder that because it's done as an ordinance, it is subject to the 30-day initiative and referendum, so the effective date, the soonest we could settle the issue would be 30 days after the next council meeting. But again, it should be still well in advance of when you'd be receiving the first.
Probably about coinciding then with the first one, with bills coming in.
I wait all the time for mine.
Well, we can- yeah.
When bills come in, they're net 30.
So is there a motion then to table or make a motion to pass, or was Councilman on
Well, I need to make a motion to table it and have them change it so it's multiple advances.
So we get back on, all right. Is that,
Update.
Or special, I think we have a special meeting before the next one, aren't we?
We won't have to anyway.
We don't have to.
Shouldn't.
If you happen to have one, we have the
Right.
ordinance back up for that.
is that a motion by Brad or by Greg? Brad.
I'll second it.
Second by Greg. Roll call.
Skylar.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Brad.
Yes.
Tony.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry we didn't have the ordinance drafted up the way, at least it's not looking like it was drafted up the way that you had requested, so our apologies for that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll be back.
Item C, consider a request by the Ainsworth Area Chamber of Commerce to hold a family fun day event at the East City Park from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, August 29, 2020. Lucinda.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. You guys look so serious. You seem like me up around here. Let's talk about the party, huh?
There you go.
All right. So, sorry, I only brought 5 copies. I'm not counting on the other 2 extra people. I have Karen O'Hare here with me as well. She's also director of the board this year, new, our treasurer, actually. So, thank you for having us. As you know, in the past in Ainsworth, we've always held a country festival. That has not happened here for a few years now. I've only been in town for 2 years. I have not seen that happen. So, but I have heard wonderful things about it. With something like that in mind, and the idea of bringing a huge event like that back to the area, and the Chamber has a little bit of funds still left from back on those country festival days, we would like to bring an event of hopefully that magnitude back, and really focus it on families though. So make it about fun day for the kids to be out there, maybe bounce houses or different activities, have a band, have people come from the different areas. I added some information on the back of the letter. If you see, there are a couple of attachments where we are planning, if this is approved of course, on advertising the event on a statewide rural electric Nebraska, there you go, thank you. Rural Electric Nebraskan magazine. They actually have a section where we could advertise at no cost. Additionally, we've secured the National Pork Board's, thank you, the National Pork Board's pork trailer. They would bring it here. They would buy pork from our local grocery stores to furnish a meal to this event at no cost to us. At no cost to anyone. I've also added just a couple of pages of information on what the pork trailer is and what it does. It's essentially, of course, the pork board trying to advertise their pork product and make sure that everybody consumes pork. The benefit to us is it's a big food truck and grilled food, nice smells, attracts people. So, and again, they are willing to purchase that pork product locally here in our local stores, either Husker Meats, Red and White, H&R. They would purchase that here locally and give that revenue directly to the city that way, to the community that way. Any questions?
Do you make this an annual event?
That is our goal.
We're gonna have beef next time?
Maybe.
Well, we actually talked about it. The pork is being donated essentially. If we could maybe get the grocery stores or ranchers or local people to donate beef. Because that was brought up, like we're beef country, like we need
Right.
beef.
Yep.
But we can't be giving away free pork and charging for beef.
Right.
That probably isn't gonna work too well once we run out of pork.
That's not the city council's problem.
No.
We're just asking permission to use these.
Yeah, that's our problem.
Right.
We just want to use the city park for the event.
Yes. Yep, so that is what we're bringing forth. I mean, I think, of course, it'd be fantastic to use the city park. It's off a major byway here in town. Everybody drives by there. If we put this statewide, people know how to get here. It's hopefully something that can attract people. I think we have a football game the night before.
I think so.
So that, the opposing team is coming anyway and their family is gonna be here, why not plan an overnight stay and stay for something like this? So it gives people an opportunity to do something else and might bring more people to the football game even because they have something else to do the next day. So just things that we're thinking about. I love Ainsworth. I think it's a great town. I really wanna bring good events back here and make sure that we are promoting what we have.
Have you talked to the bouncy house people and those
Yes, we're going to be.
about their insurance and if they bring the insurance and how all that works?
We haven't yet, but
Okay.
it's on our next agenda. We needed to get the venue site approved
Okay.
before we put a lot of time and effort into something that it wasn't gonna happen. So yes, we will.
I was just gonna say that too, the city doesn't have special event coverage, so
Right.
we'd have to be listed as an additional insured, either through the chamber's special event coverage or
Mhm.
through your vendors.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was what we discussed.
And so I'd just be in contact with one of you to
Yeah,
get
my-
those certificates of insured when you have them.
So just for some quick background, since you two are the new kids on the block, when I was the new kid on the block 10 years ago here,
New, right?
I got thrown into chamber presidency within the first year of being back, and the music festival had gone away about 2 years prior to that. So
Ooh, fun.
as chamber president, I tried to bring something back, revamp the music festival instead of the old pickers and the contest that had dwindled down to where had just lost money all the time. We'll revamp it, we'll do a 2-day show, we'll bring in some decent headlining bands, we'll make it a full 2 days of more kind of modern country music, some local talent, that type of thing, and promoted it and did a big deal on it, spent a lot of money, and lost our shorts. So
Right.
I'm glad you're focusing on a more family aspect of some
Right.
other things other than just music, because we
Right.
tried it with bringing back and revamping it to a different type of music, and we took a huge bath. So I thought maybe we had, you know, there was only about $5,000 or $6,000 left in that account after that
Yep.
show. I thought we had at one point voted as a chamber to donate that to the fair board, so apparently that's,
It's still there.
it's still there,
It's still
okay.
there. I was
Well,
very
that's good.
confused with
I
what it
mean,
was.
kudos to you for trying it. It's a huge undertaking from somebody who did it and put on a 2-day one, only to just get killed financially on it.
Right.
So, you know,
So-
the E-Free Church does that big event.
Yep.
And that's where, you know, not to mimic what they're doing, but we think we can do more.
Yeah.
And it's great to have multiple events for young
Yeah,
families.
good.
There's tons of young families.
I hope it works out. Well, you know, yeah, that's right.
Oh, no, it's gonna work out.
It's good.
Yeah.
Like the positive attitude.
So, yeah, just, it was interesting to hear, because I was you guys 10 years ago doing the same thing, going, oh, we gotta bring something back.
And, you know, and this is in the planning stages. I did secure the pork trailer. That is a thing that you have to secure right away. I know you guys are laughing, but it is a thing. It
So if you don't get the
travels-
park, you're just gonna park it in?
I will let him park in my house. I mean, the trailer is coming. So I did secure it for that date. But of course, we don't want to plan anything else until we have the approval of the board. We have a great idea. We want
We've
to
got time
move
to
forward.
execute it really
Yes,
positively, I think.
yes. So, but I wanted to be on the agenda right away to find out whether or not we'll be able to use the park, so.
I'll make a motion to allow the Area Chamber of Commerce to utilize East City Park from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, August 29, 2020.
Second.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Greg?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Skylar?
Aye.
4-0 pass.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
There's something on your advertising you guys were talking about, you might want to check with lodging tax. You know, utilize part of your advertising.
I have already put a bug in someone's ear there.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Item D, consider ordinance 1544, amending the nuisance code. And this is just to update our stuff so that it matches with Andy's and Rod's, correct?
So a little bit of background, especially for Tony. He's not been on any of this conversation. We've been,
That's not true. We were talking about this when I was on city council.
I'm glad we stayed full circle. We're making progress, right? So, we started out the administrative procedure, quadranting the city and noticing and hiring CNET, a third party, to do the inspections and whatnot. We've moved to a system now where we partner with Brown County Sheriff's Office through our law enforcement agreement, and we've moved the procedure through a penal court process rather than an administrative process. So as it stands now, Brown County Sheriff's Office has some notices that coincide with what our ordinance code says. If they see violations, they issue the notices. The property owner has 10 days to request a hearing of the city council to appeal the notice. If they don't, and they don't abate it within the 10 days, then the city, Brown County Sheriff's Office, on behalf of the city, can issue a citation for court fine. So this amendment, I might let Rod speak to this a little bit. Andy Taylor is our prosecuting attorney for the city on these citations. He had some concerns about whether we were in the legal right on some of these cases, and I'll hand it to Rod there.
Andy Taylor came to me after we reviewed the ordinance on nuisances. To kind of simplify this, the Ainsworth City Code provides for nuisances to be, well, 3 procedures for taking care of nuisances to abate them. Number 1, an administrative procedure that's done through the office. Number 2, a penal procedure where the sheriff issues a citation to the people once he recognizes a nuisance. Number 3, is a civil process where we sue them civilly in district court and ask that the court order them to abate their nuisance. The ordinances as they were written and recodified by the ordinance people down in Neely that recodified all of our ordinances to make them comply with state law, which we adopted a few years ago, indicates that for all three procedures, the administrative, the penal, and the civil procedure, once the nuisance officer, which is basically the sheriff, recognizes that there's a nuisance, he brings it to the city council. The city council then, or the health board can do it too, or the governing body itself can do it, can be brought to the city by three ways: the nuisance officer, the health board, or the governing body, the city council. And they can declare a nuisance exists. And the way it was written, they had to do it for all three procedures. And it's become very cumbersome for the sheriff to have to identify the nuisance, then come before the board, explain every nuisance that he finds, and then have the board declare a nuisance for each one of those before he can proceed. So what this does is it speeds things up. We don't go to the city council for the penal prosecutions, but we still have to go for the administrative procedures and the civil procedures to abate the nuisances. In other words, what happens under this procedure that we're going to amend is that the nuisance officer declares the nuisance and observes the nuisance, and he figures out, he compares it to the list in the ordinance. He says, yaha, that's a nuisance, therefore I'm going to give them notice to abate it. He gives them notice to abate it. I think it says 15 rather than 10 days in here. And if they don't abate it within 15 days, and they don't ask for a hearing in front of the city council, which they can, then the way is cleared for the sheriff to issue a citation. And then they appear in court. That's the difference. So it speeds things up. We don't have to go through the city for the penal provisions to declare an ordinance in each one of these little instances. And there are numerous ones that he's finding right now and issuing citations on.
And a lot of examples would be unlicensed vehicles, trailers that are parked on the street for days on end, junk in the yard, very obvious minor infractions, I would say, that are fairly easy for the property owner to clean up.
Do you want to specify that? Because I can see scenarios, I mean, you're basically under this would just be giving the sheriff the green light, which is fine, except you're going to be held to account if somebody comes in raising hell about why they got a notice when you guys haven't even seen it, basically, yet. So, I mean, I'm just not saying that I mean, you're exactly for the smaller things, but I'm just saying for any kind of thing, I mean, you're taking the council out of having that decision, except for when the person's coming in to appeal about it, and it's the first time you guys are hearing about it. So, I mean, I can see it being both ways. I don't expect that would be a case very many times with our sheriff, to where it wouldn't be more than exactly what you're talking about. But you might just want to, you know, I don't know if you can clarify exactly what he has that authority to do, is it from the nuisance side, or whether it can be fine-tuned like that, or if it just needs to stay generic, and then you guys deal with it. If there are people that come in and say, I don't know why the sheriff gave me this, and you guys say, oh, we don't know anything about it, I want to talk to the sheriff.
Well, there's kind of a double check here. The person can come to the council and ask for a hearing, or they can go to the court and say to the judge, hey, look, this doesn't fall within the nuisance ordinance. So the judge has been quite lenient, according to Andy Taylor, about allowing these people a little time if they want to get it cleaned up and get it done. Therefore, it never even comes to us. We don't even have to deal with it. And it's all going, and most of them are going that way, it sounds like.
Okay, gotcha.
I was gonna say, in the, how many years, a year and a half, 2 years, we've been doing the citations through BCSO, or at least the notices through BCSO, we've had 3 requests for a hearing at city council level.
Well, and there were more than that that came in when we first did them. and
Through
they-
CEQA,
they
through the
sectioned.
administrative process.
And this doesn't change that hearing
Yeah.
procedure.
Yeah.
They still had it under the old way.
Yeah, I just thought of it as if they, and then, yeah, so on those rare occasions, then maybe that's something you guys are fine with, just saying, maybe they asked to be on the agenda early enough that you guys have at least some head time to talk to the sheriff about the individual. Because I didn't, I can just see scenarios where somebody comes in and puts you guys on blast, even though you weren't the ones that issued.
I'm pretty sure the sheriff's gonna have pictures. Then if they do request a hearing, he's probably gonna know about it ahead of time.
Okay.
Have
But
the
you guys
pictures,
can be-
so we'll
that
have
you
the
guys can be
pictures.
updated on it.
The ordinance actually lines out like timeframes that we have
I'm thick
to.
enough skin that I can handle it.
I don't think the
Hearing,
likelihood of getting
by
blindsided of it is very, very.
We also have 2 individuals that sit on the Board of Health that sit on city council, myself and Greg, so we should be.
Well, part of those that there are more serious ones that they're approaching come from the Board of Health too.
Okay.
Or directed.
Yeah, I like I said, not against,
I hear.
just, you know,
Yeah,
thinking
for sure.
out loud on whether, what you guys wanted to deal with, if you didn't know exactly what was going on, so.
It can be a pretty cumbersome process, so I think, I guess the.
Well, especially if they're getting continued all the time, that
Yeah.
when you are trying to put some teeth behind them, so.
The initiative is to just try to make it a little more efficient.
More cost effective too.
Yeah, like I said, we were talking about this the last time I was here.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Does this include dilapidated houses,
This is
unoccupied
Larry?
houses?
What'd you say, Larry? I'm sorry.
Does this include dilapidated, unoccupied houses? That's up here on this one.
Yeah, we got that.
It
Now,
could.
we have the second reading of that today.
Okay.
First reading.
Well, the third and final reading next one.
So no more questions, comments? I'll read it for the second reading on this one then.
No, this is the first reading, so
First
city
reading on
council
this one,
can.
second on
I think you want to pass this one right away.
Yeah, we want to waive and read. So if we can get a
Suspend the rules.
motion to introduce it and a second to introduce the ordinance, and then a first and second to waive the second and third read, the 3 readings, correct?
Yes, I
And
think
then
you
I'll
put it
read.
all in one motion as far
Right.
as I'm concerned.
So if somebody wants to do a first to waive and
Introduce the
introduce.
ordinance. Move its
Order.
adoption and waive the 3 readings.
I will make a motion to introduce the ordinance, and I'm sorry, I don't have the number in front of me. 1544, and I will also, in addition to that, request that we waive 3 hearings on such, on the amendment to the nuisance code. Did I say that
And
well
move its
enough?
adoption.
And move its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
I hope I got that
Great.
straight out. didn't I?
First by Tony, second by Craig, roll call.
Tony,
Yes.
Skylar,
No.
Greg,
Aye.
Brad,
Yes.
Done. Or I'll pass.
no, 3-1.
3-1?
Is this like KBRB where we call in requests for nuisances?
Sure. I guess.
You can call in requests, so you're just
Do
calling
you
the wrong
want-
number.
No,
That's how you call 1440
Yeah,
instead of
yeah, that's why
1400.
I'm just thinking about around my house, there's a few I'd like to see sometime in half.
Ron, so that's good. Okay. Item E, City Administrator Clerk Treasurer Report.
So just really a lot of continuation of all of our projects. It's, I feel like this month I kind of just spun wheels all month. Making big steps. Did have a conference call with Heather Slicano, which is the LB Authority City Approved Attorney, finalizing all of those documents with her. She is going to come to town on the 18th, meet with me, and just kind of hammer out all of the fine details and the questions and the things so we can get a good baseline and just get things rolling forward. As a part of that, I invited John and Kristen Olson to come and as participants also of some of our problem solving with the program. So hopefully, starting next week, we will have all of the questions and everything answered and be ready to just rock and roll. Had a lot of,
Second page of the agenda, because I didn't get one in my packet.
It's just,
sorry, it's just.
Oh, we just, okay, sorry, all right, I thought there was gonna be a,
yeah, no.
I got it now, never mind.
Sorry.
Good.
You got the report?
Lot of Next month we'll have it a little better organized.
Yeah, you know, I might have more than 3 minutes to read through some of it before I know,
Having had some discussions about COVID-19, that's, seems to be everywhere, discussion everywhere. Just know that City of Ainsworth as a whole is working to coordinate with all entities within the community so that we're all on the same page, working towards the same goal for promotion of public health and safety, and that we are taking initiatives and doing what we need to do as leaders in the community to have a streamlined response and streamlined communications to the public. So as it stands now, we're pretty fortunate. It's inevitable, I think, that it's going to hit our community, and just know that we are all working together and we are communicating, and we are on top of it as much as we can be. And the other big item on the list is just street repair. So the sun's out, the snow's drying up at least for a few days. It's coming back, but we're working to get bids, proposals for contractors to get in here, for us to get on their schedule so we can get some things done and start using those FEMA dollars that we have been awarded. So that is the sort of the hot topic, getting those things lined up, and so that we are ready to go when weather permits.
what is the, bring me up to speed on how much FEMA dollars do we have and what are we trying to target those at?
Sure, so we have been awarded roughly $2.2 million. A lot of that was based off of just, with damage everywhere. I mean, little bits here and there, some bits bigger than others. The unfortunate thing is that, of course, we will have frost coming out of the ground, and we already had damage to start with. So streets that were already cracking, that's not going to improve as the spring thaw comes. It's just going to get worse before it gets better.
So those FEMA dollars, have been involved with a few other FEMA things in this past year with the flooding, so they only allow us to return it back to its original condition, not to improve it, is that correct?
Right, and we
Or
kind of.
back to same type of construction, but we can't change construction.
Correct, we flitted around with mitigation all summer, last summer, thinking that maybe we could get some mitigation to concrete in certain areas that were hit pretty hard, and that turned out to a big no-go, but we put our best effort forward. I guess you don't know until you try. So the money we got will go for just asphalt.
Have you started looking at contractors yet? I imagine you're
Yeah.
gonna farm out some of this work.
We've
I
got
would think you
some.
wanna get them lined up for April, May, or something.
We've got some proposals where ideally I wanted 2 or 3. I've got one. Getting people here is tough because everybody is so busy. So we're probably going to have to look at, I wanted a decision by the end of March so that we can get on a schedule. One of the guys that we've talked to, contractors, he's doing some work in Springview, so he will be in the area. But I wanted a comparative, at least a second comparative, and given somebody up here is proving a little bit difficult. So I guess to be continued with the city council, if I can get a second proposal or not, might come back before the city council before the month is over, so we can make a decision about the direction we want to go.
Do we have a hot mix plant that's going to be in our region this year?
I'm trying to think on the projects, the DOR, of course, DOT's schedule changed a lot.
Yeah, I know, that's why
I don't know of anything off the top of my head where they're doing any real asphalt replacement projects on state highways. I think everything is west of Valentine on 20 is the one I know they're doing. Beyond that, I'm not
So
sure.
it's gonna be difficult for us to actually do any street repair with asphalt, without an asphalt plant, without asking someone to come in and set up an asphalt plant to do $2 million worth of work.
Well, as it stands right now, what we've asked contractors for, well, at least the one we've actually got a bid from, or a proposal anyway from, is on a per foot basis, because, you know, we don't know how much time we're gonna get them here. We want to get them for the most that we can get them for. We've got a couple of main areas that we know have to be done by a contractor, because we just don't have the equipment to do it. That's on Harrington Street, Third and Oak, and up here on Seventh, where the islands are. It's kind of a mess in there. So, and beyond that, he's quoted on a per foot basis, so if we can get him for more, we'll use him as much as we can. Otherwise, it's gonna be our guys patching, and then probably just iron coating.
Whatever that proposal, that would include removal of
Correct.
the old asphalt. The one thing you might look into, I know it's expensive, but it might be worth it. They've got that machine that chews up the old stuff, remixes it, lays it down with new additionally, but it saves you a step in that machine. Chews up the old stuff. Instead of you paying the cost to tear out all the old stuff and put all new stuff in, this thing comes in as a ripper type thing. It reclaims the old stuff, remixes it with oil. You add new if you need, as you need to, but I don't know if it's feasible. I know it's expensive, but it would save you if your removal costs are very high on removing the old stuff. It might be something at least to look at. I don't know about its availability. They've been up here a year or two ago, demonstrated for the county one little stretch basically. But I don't, if your removal costs on this are gonna be really high, it might be worth at least, maybe there's another proposal to look at. Like I said, it may be so expensive, it's just out the window.
Well,
It wouldn't be changing the condition of
Right,
it.
it's
Well,
just-
again, I just didn't know.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
you
it
know,
wouldn't
with
be changing
FEMA,
the-
everything's got a timetable, a deadline, February, or February, not February, good Lord. September 20th is kind of our hard and fast deadline. We can request extensions if we can't get contractors here. We can request extensions from NEMA. But basically, the sooner we get things lined up, the better. We just need to get some things,
Are you constrained by the bidding process?
just trying to get quotes from people.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't there a monetary fee that if you go over, it has to go out for bids?
Not with FEMA money. They
Okay.
have procurement procedures, which we've been following. They prefer that we get 3. If we can't get 3, we just have to document our attempts. So that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to go as
Right.
long as we can.
In setting in on the commissioners' meetings, the FEMA money is you do the work, then they decide when they can pay you. So if you have 2.2 million or whatever in the budget, I know at the commissioners' meetings, they said you might be waiting 2 to 5 years for this money. They, with all their damage from the March and September storms last year, they've gotten back 58,000, I think. And they've got who knows how much into it. So do you have the finances available for doing the work and to be able to wait for 2 to 3 to 5 years to get your money?
Well, and those are the things the city's council's gonna have to consider when we sit down and look at our proposals. I mean, the way that I'm asking the contractors to quote it for us is so that we can make those informed decisions, because we will have to take out interim financing likely.
And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are only the areas that were identified
On the damage.
previously,
Yeah.
not additional damages that we're seeing now. They will not be included in this.
Correct, so this is from the FEMA disaster from last March. And if you recall, we had storms all throughout the summer, and then we had a big set of storms in September, which is when we had our water main breaks down there by Bone Creek, and the city coughed up a pretty good chunk of change making repairs while people in our western side of town were out of water for a week. That's not included. So this is just for damage that occurred from March 12th, I believe, 12th or 14th through July, I don't remember, because Ours really was the March event. So anything new that occurs is not covered. So, you know, on our end, I guess administratively at the city level, that's on me. I've got to keep track of all of that, so that's just part of the process.
Which I think the public needs to be informed of and understand, because it's not gonna cover everything.
It's not, and it's, like I said, it's gonna be a little bit worse before it gets better, so, you know, I'm very,
And the GPS, the actual damage, like there might be a 5 foot by 5 foot area here, and then half a block down might be another 5 foot by 5 foot area. They won't fix in between that, they're just gonna fix those 2 spots.
correct. Yeah.
Well, then that takes out that takes out that machine
Well,
as an option.
you could potentially use it on like Harrington, but for the cost, it's probably not gonna be effective.
But in some ways, it might, Greg, I mean, it might be an option we have to at least look at in some areas.
Yeah, well,
And then long-term solution, you know, is just going back to paving looking seriously at some paving projects. We, right now, we're not an LMI community, so we've got to get those ducks in a row, because paving projects probably not realistic without grant funds. So we've got several stones to set in place and things to get in motion before we can get to that point, but those are all on the radar.
But that process has been partially started on the LMI.
That's correct. We've got the building blocks set, so. Bear with us.
More questions, comments? Council, audience? All right, let's go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 18:40 hours, 6:40. Thank you for everybody coming.
And again,